Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. mypillow.com, promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in as we start a new week. Glad to have you spend a few minutes of your day with me. DHS shared new video on its X account that appeared to be 3.5 minutes of footage taken by a citizen from inside a nearby home showing U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers and multiple vehicles out in the street being stalked by Renee Good just prior to her fatal confrontation last week. We have the latest on this ongoing investigation. Also, the Trump administration is fighting back on the narrative that the mainstream media is using in Minnesota. Trump officials say they have arrested hundreds of criminal illegal aliens since kicking off the largest immigration enforcement operation ever deployed in Minneapolis, including monsters convicted of heinous crimes like murder, sodomy, and raping children. We also have an update on what's happening in Iran, where Iranian authorities have mercilessly slaughtered more than 500 people in a ruthless crackdown on the nationwide anti-regime uprising in what human rights groups have warned is a state-sponsored massacre in progress. And should 16-year-olds be able to get married in South Carolina? That's the question state legislators are asking. We have a lot to cover. Let's get started.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
The story out of Minneapolis has got a whole lot more complicated and, frankly, a lot more revealing. Let's start with border czar Tom Homan, who appeared on Fox News Sunday, where host Shannon Bream asked about his latest thoughts on the investigation and where it is presently.
Immediately after the shooting, you said that it would be unprofessional to comment on what I think happened in that situation. Let the investigation play out and hold people accountable based on that investigation. Since that time, we've seen a lot more evidence come out, including cell phone video from the officer who shot Renee Good. What is your assessment now?
Look, when I did that interview, I went straight from an airplane, tarmac, straight to that interview. So when someone shows me one video, cherry-picked video, and asks me to comment, I just think it was inappropriate for me to do so. But look, since then, I've looked at a bunch of videos, and I truly believe that officer thought his life was in danger to take that action. Now, look, we won't let the investigation play out. There's a lot of things we all don't know. There's probably a lot of video we haven't seen, but the FBI has, even ring video. What's the statement from the officer? What's the statement from the witnesses? What's ballistics? The ballistics, I'm sure they're looking at ballistics and the forensics. There's a lot of information needs to come out, so I'm still going to say, let's stop the hateful rhetoric. You can't compare this to murder. Murder requires malice, and that is just dangerous to put that type of language out. Let the investigation play out and see where it lies.
Now, over the weekend, the Department of Homeland Security released new video footage showing the minutes leading up to the fatal shooting of Renee Nicole Good by a federal immigration agent. And whether you support ICE or oppose it, which I can't imagine why you would, but let's just try to be fair about this. Whether you like President Trump's immigration policies or not, the video matters. For days now, the public conversation has been dominated by a single version of events. That a woman was suddenly and unjustly shot during an ICE operation with little explanation and no justification. Protests, as you know, have erupted. Politicians have rushed to microphones. Accusations flew. We saw protests in cities all around the country. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry went so far as to tell federal agents to get out of his city. I cleaned that up considerably. But now we have video, a lot of video, not a press release, not a talking point, but actual footage, and it raises additional serious questions. The footage shared by DHS is about 3.5 minutes long. It appears to have been recorded by a private citizen from inside a nearby home. It shows ICE agents in multiple vehicles positioned on this residential street. You hear a car horn blasting repeatedly. You hear someone blowing a whistle over and over and over. You see vehicles stopped, blocked, boxed in. And at one point, the camera pans to Miss Good's Honda Pilot sitting in the middle of the street. This was not a calm, static scene. According to DHS, the video shows what they describe as ongoing interference with a federal law enforcement operation. Not a split-second encounter, but escalating behavior over a period of time. DHS didn't mince words. They said the woman was stalking and impeding the operation. And there'd been a lot more happening prior to the actual fatal confrontation. They accused activists of deliberately disrupting law enforcement. They blasted the media for what they say is incomplete and misleading reporting. We know that's what the media does best. Now, you don't have to accept DHS's framing wholesale. Skepticism of government, I guess, is healthy to a degree. But you also can't pretend this footage does not exist. Here's the key issue. This incident did not come out of nowhere. The dominant narrative suggested the shooting happened suddenly, without warning, without provocation, without context. That narrative shaped public outrage before any facts were actually known. All we know was that an ICE agent shot what the protesters are saying was an innocent woman. The video shows a buildup. It shows agitation. It shows disruption. It shows tension escalating, not dissipating. And that matters when you evaluate the claim of self-defense. Federal officials say the agent fired after Good allegedly drove her vehicle towards officers. DHS and ICE have characterized it as a self-defense tactic, even used the phrase domestic terrorism by using her vehicle, turning her vehicle into a weapon that could have cost the agent his life. Now, reasonable people can disagree on various parts of this story. But what's no longer reasonable is pretending this was a calm, peaceful moment that turned violent out of the blue. This had been building. She had been agitating them for quite some time that day. And it brings us to a bigger issue, the media. DHS flat out accused legacy media of failing the American people. Now, that's a strong charge, but it's not coming out of thin air. How many Americans heard about the protests before they heard about the interference? How many heard politicians condemning ICE before they saw some of the video that we've been able to see since that tragic day? How many headlines ran with outrage before they even looked at the evidence, automatically assuming that ICE had done something wrong? This isn't about defending ICE at all costs. It's about asking why full context consistently arrives late, after opinions have already been formed by many. By the time video shows up, the narrative has hardened because you've seen it across the headlines. And all the networks, CNN, NBC, CBS, ABC, all the networks have already automatically condemned ICE. By the time facts emerge, the outrage has already done its work. And that's a problem, not just for this case, but for public trust in general. Now, Mayor Jacob Fry, you heard him last week. He's been at the center of this firestorm, loudly opposing ICE, accusing federal agents of making the city less safe. He dismissed DHS's self-defense claim as garbage. But here's the uncomfortable reality for city leaders like him. You can oppose federal immigration enforcement. You can criticize ICE policy. You can argue for sanctuary protections. But you do not get to ignore what happens on the street when federal officers are surrounded, blocked, and interfered with during an operation. Because when rhetoric escalates, behavior often follows, and that's what we saw. When officials tell activists that ICE doesn't belong, some people take it as a green light to intervene themselves, to try to keep ICE from doing their jobs. That's when things spiral out of control. That's what we saw last week. That's what we've seen in some other situations around the country. And let's be clear about this. A woman is dead now because of it. She felt like that she was doing, in Governor Tim Walz's mind, her patriotic duty for being out there trying to interfere with an ICE operation. She lost her life over it. Now it's created a firestorm. But the other thing that you have to ask yourself is, how many times are we going to go down this path over something that's happened in Minneapolis? We saw the world turn upside down over the George Floyd situation. It's like it's repeating itself now over a demonstration protest over immigration. Minneapolis should not be allowed to take us back down that path of destruction like we saw happen during George Floyd. We got to stop this now, get back on board, and support ICE and the job that they do. It's not your fault that losing weight is getting harder and harder. You're eating better, you're moving more, but your body isn't responding the way it used to. That's not willpower, that's metabolism. And believe me, I've learned so much about the metabolism from the folks at PhD Weight Loss, and it's made a huge difference in my life. Joey Hudson here. For many people, years of dieting quietly slows the metabolic system down, so the harder you try, the less progress you see. At PhD Weight Loss, they help people identify what's actually blocking fat loss, and they fix the root cause, not just count calories. If you want to understand why your body isn't cooperating, call PhD Weight Loss now and mention Fix My Weight Loss to unlock the New Year's special. It's free, it's personalized, and it could explain everything. Call 864-644-1900 and say Fix My Weight Loss. That's 864-644-1900 and say Fix My Weight Loss to get started today. You can also find them online at myphdweightloss.com. That's myphdweightloss.com. Start the new year off right and fix your weight loss. Before we leave Minneapolis, I just wish people would calm down for a minute and look at what ICE is actually doing there. And anywhere, any of these cities that ICE is carrying out these immigration enforcement actions. The incident sits at the crossroads of national tensions, immigration enforcement, protest culture, federal versus local authority, media credibility, political rhetoric that's increasingly incendiary. When ICE operations are treated as illegitimate by local officials, enforcement becomes more dangerous for anybody involved. When activists are encouraged to physically disrupt law enforcement, consequences will follow. And when the media picks sides before evidence is in public, it erodes public trust in everybody, law enforcement and the media. And you have to understand, the Trump administration is doing their job. ICE agents are doing their job in Minneapolis. They have arrested, and the Trump administration released some of the data to support this over the weekend as well. They've arrested hundreds of criminal illegal aliens since kicking off what they're calling the largest immigration enforcement operation ever deployed in Minneapolis, including monsters convicted of some very horrible crimes. Immigration and Custom Enforcement officials announced the latest round of what it called the worst criminal offenders in the world, while blasting local officials for upholding policies that have made the Twin Cities a magnet for vicious predators. You would think that the people of Minneapolis would want these people out of their community rather than trying to disrupt what ICE is doing. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey are encouraging this bad behavior with their rhetoric of lawlessness, while their sanctuary policies continue to ensure that the worst of the worst criminal aliens flock to their areas. Why? Why would they want these people in their community? The agency, which sent over 2,000 officers to Minneapolis in the last week alone, also hit out at violent rioters and agitators for trying to protect these criminals by interfering and obstructing. Some of the worst of the worst. Let me just read to you some of the information that was released on these criminal illegal aliens. Now, the names I may not get right, but I'm going to give it a try. Ciridorn Favon, a Laotian national convicted of strong-arm sodomy of a boy and strong-arm sodomy of a girl, as well as another aggravated sex offense. 9 counts of larceny, 4 counts of fraud, and a spate of other burglary, drug, and theft offenses. Now, this is the type of person that Governor Tim Walz is defending. Tu Vang, a criminal illegal alien from Laos, who has been convicted of sexual assault and sodomy of a girl under the age of 13 and procuring a child for prostitution. This is who Mayor Jacob Fry is defending. Shong View, also from Laos, with convictions for strong-arm rape of a 12-year-old girl, kidnapping a child with intent to sexually assault her, and vehicle theft. Gabriel Fierro Gama, a criminal illegal alien from Mexico, who was previously removed from the U.S. in 2002, later convicted of homicide, battery, assault, and amphetamine possession. And the mayor, again, would rather ICE not be in his city. In fact, just told ICE to get out of his city because he's okay with Mr. Gama being in his city, I guess. Abdulshah Adash Elmi, a Somali national convicted of homicide. I mean, they've got murderers in that community, and they're upset that ICE is coming and picking them up and deporting them, sending them back home. Abdulshad Muhammad Ahmad, a criminal illegal alien, again from Somalia, convicted of 2 counts of negligent manslaughter with a vehicle, 2 counts of DUI, larceny, and damage to property. Gilberto Landaverde, a Salvadorian national and illegal immigrant who has been convicted of homicide not once, not twice, but 3 times. And Governor Tim Walz is okay with him being in Minnesota. Mariama Sa Kanu of Sierra Leone, who has been convicted of 2 counts of homicide, 4 DUIs, 3 counts of larceny, and burglary. Tai Lor, a criminal illegal alien from Laos, with a final order of removal from June 15, 2009, who has been convicted of 2 counts of homicide. Arresting and deporting these people is absolutely critical to national security. Why anyone would want them in our country, and why anyone would not be applauding ICE for making sure that these people leave our country. Walz and Fry, they've been very vocal opponents of ICE operations in the state. Even when the offenders being rounded up have numerous convictions for horrific, violent crimes, they're okay with it. Mayor Fry puffed up his chest, told ICE to get out of Minneapolis. And again, I cleaned that up. In an expletive-filled press conference right after Renee Nicole Good was shot and killed by an ICE agent when she veered her SUV into the path and tried to run over him. Governor Walz has called immigration enforcement efforts in the state reckless and has compared ICE agents to the Gestapo because they're getting these murderers, these rapists out of their cities and out of their state, out of our country. Speaking on Fox News yesterday, U.S. Border Czar Tom Homan accused the media of normalizing people interfering with ICE operations. And that's exactly what they've done. It's like, it's your constitutional right. And as Governor Walz says, it's your patriotic duty to get out there and protest, to try to interfere with ICE because they're getting murderers out of our community. Now, this is good as long as, along with many others in their community. They received training, some of these protesters, with a so-called ICE watch to learn tactics for disrupting agents' work. This is criminal. It is criminal for them to be allowed to continue to try to disrupt ICE and what they're doing. Mr. Holman told Shannon Bream, we need to enforce the law and arrest these bad guys. We've already arrested over 1,000 people in Minnesota, and we're going to continue to do exactly that. As they should. As they should. I mean, what am I missing here? Is there any scenario where people should be allowed to interfere with any law enforcement operation, particularly ICE? Email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. You can text me. Leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Well, speaking of protests, let's turn overseas now, because what's happening in Iran is kind of horrifying. Numbers keep getting worse by the hour. Human rights groups are now warning that more than 500 people have been killed in Iran over the past 2 weeks as the regime launches what is being called a brutal crackdown on the nationwide anti-government protest. Let that sink in. 500 people, many of them young, many of them civilians, gunned down by their own government. According to human rights activists in Iran, security forces are firing live ammunition into the middle of crowds, dragging bodies away in trucks, arresting thousands. More than 10,600 people have reportedly been detained, and former U.S. military officials are warning many of those prisoners could be executed. Now, some of these protesters who in Minneapolis who think they haven't been treated fairly, maybe they should go try their protesting skills in Iran, see how it gets them, what it gets them over there. Eyewitnesses inside Tehran have described scenes that sound like a war zone. Have you seen some of the video that's leaked out as well? Blood in the streets. Hospitals, we're told, are overwhelmed. Their bodies are just literally piling up because they have nowhere to put them. And this is all happening while the Iranian regime has shut down the internet nationwide to keep the outside world from seeing what's really going on. So we're not getting clear pictures. You certainly aren't getting videos posted on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok like we have been out of Minnesota, because the government shut it down. Again, these protesters around the country, they think that they're being crucified here in the U.S. Go try that in Iran. See where it gets you. Iran's attorney general didn't exactly try to soften things either. He labeled protesters enemies of God, which in Iran means one thing: the death penalty. They're going to kill them. They could end up having public executions. Of course, there's not much, you can't get any more public than just shooting them out in the middle of the street. Human rights organizations are now openly saying that a state-sponsored massacre is unfolding. Reports describe snipers, the use of drones, rubber bullets aimed at protesters' eyes to intentionally blind them, and even military-grade weapons being used on civilians. Now the pressure's building around the world as people are watching this. Retired Army General Jack Keane says that President Trump should give the regime one final warning before taking direct action against Iranian leaders responsible for the violence. His words: if this continues, take down the people giving the orders. Now, I hate to see these people lose their life. I hate to see this country in such turmoil. But I got to tell you, I'm a little torn on just how involved we need to get. Boy, I mean, it's like the whole world is falling apart. We got the situation in Venezuela. Now Iran. We still, looking at Ukraine. Things aren't totally taken care of in Gaza. I mean, there's a lot of unrest, and that doesn't even mention Minneapolis and Oregon, Portland, Oregon, and the things that are going on here at home. President Trump, for his part, has made it pretty clear when it comes to Iran, if the regime starts shooting protesters, the U.S. just won't sit back and watch, he said. Meanwhile, Iran's supreme leader is responding with the usual threats, promising retaliation against U.S. bases if America intervenes. At what point, and again, I'd love to get your take on this, text me, email me, joe@joeyhudson.com, leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Just leave me a message. Tell me what you think. And by the way, be sure and always use promo code Joey when you go to MyPillow.com. Mike Lindell has carried over some of the great deals he had as we headed into Christmas. The children's Bible story pillow 5-pack for $29.98. The My Slippers with a free bottle of leather protectant spray for only $39.98. Blankets, comforters, duvets for as low as $25. And this blowout sale on the standard My Pillows for just $14.98. Now, you get these prices when you use promo code Joey and you go to MyPillow.com. You can call as well, 800-893-4059. Always Have your credit card ready. And again, use promo code Joey. Tell them you want the best price possible. The standard size MyPillow originally is $49.98. Right now, with promo code Joey, you can get it for $14.98. Queen size is only $18.98. King's only $1 more with promo code Joey. We know MyPillow products come with a 10-year warranty, but MyPillow has just announced that they're extending their 60-day money-back guarantee into the spring. Orders placed now will get you your 60-day money-back guarantee extended through March the 1st of this year. So go to MyPillow.com or call 800-893-4059. Take advantage of the standard MyPillows for just $14.98 when you use promo code Joey. But yeah, leave me a message on the MyPillow message line. At what point does the U.S. get involved in Iran? And again, the pressure is building. President Trump has made it clear. Meanwhile, we're being threatened by the Iran leaders that if we do get too involved, what they're going to do. Weighing in also is Reza Pahlavi, Iran's exiled crown prince, urging President Trump not to abandon the Iranian people. He says that President Trump's public support has given protesters hope, and he's calling for sustained pressure to help them overthrow the regime. Now, not everyone's calling for military strikes. Some Iranian American groups are urging targeted sanctions, international investigations, diplomatic isolation, and help restoring internet access to protesters so they can communicate and better organize. Here's the bottom line. This is no longer about just economic protest, though. This has turned into a full-scale uprising against a regime that's been in power since 1979. And the response has been ruthless, violent, and deadly. The world's watching. The clock's ticking, and what happens next could shape the future of Iran and the Middle East for generations. We'll continue to watch that. Gavin Newsom and the progressives running California have thought all they have to do is tax the rich. Just tax those billionaires more, and we'll get out of our financial problems here in California. The problem with that, and it's something that New York City is about to discover too, billionaires can live anywhere they choose. And California is about to learn that the hard way. Venture capitalist Shumath Filipapia says that California's proposed billionaire tax is accelerating an exodus of ultra-wealthy residents, a shift he argues will worsen and not solve the state's budget deficit. Now, he says that he's been tracking capital flight from the Golden State and said that California has so far lost an estimated $1 trillion in potential taxes because of billionaires who've left the state. He wrote on X yesterday, we had $2 trillion of billionaire wealth just a few weeks ago. Now 50% of that wealth has left, taking their income tax revenue, their sales tax revenue, real estate tax revenue, and all their staffs and their salaries with them. And we're seeing these countries just say, okay, hey, this is how you're gonna treat your corporate citizens. We're out of here. There are a lot of other states that we can move to. We can set our operations there, and they'll appreciate it having us there. California has long depended on its billionaire class, among the largest in the nation, and they need them to help fund the state budget. I mean, why would Gavin Newsom and his little progressive group of people out there, do they not understand that billionaires have been reliable taxpayers for all these years? This gentleman's comments come as California voters consider a proposed ballot initiative that's backed by the Service Employees International Union that would impose a one-time 5% tax on the assets of California residents worth more than $1 billion. I mean, you're basically targeting, you're creating a tax that only applies to one group of individuals, billionaires. Supporters say the revenue could help offset federal funding and cuts for health care. In December, California Governor Gavin Newsom said he opposed the proposed billionaire tax while cautioning against panic over the measure. He said it's not something to be panicked about, but it's part of the broader concern and narrative that's developed in this country of the haves and have-nots, not just income inequality, but wealth inequality. He told this to the New York Times during an interview. But the progressives in the California Assembly have continued regardless. For once, Gavin Newsom seems to be the one with the common sense. Is he going to let the Assembly institute this and drive the billionaires out of the state? We'll be watching. We'll see. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you could trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. Here's a question for you. Should 16 and 17-year-olds be allowed to marry in South Carolina? Here's the story. In South Carolina, 16 and 17-year-olds can't smoke. They can't open a credit card line of credit, or they can't vote. But they can get married under a law that some legislators and advocates are trying to change. Until 2019, a loophole in the state law allowed judges to issue marriage licenses to children of any age if they were pregnant or gave birth, allowing thousands to get married over the course of 2 decades. A law passed that year made clear that only those 16 and up could get married with parental permission. But as more states do away with underage marriage altogether, some are pushing South Carolina to set a firm floor of 18 years old. What do you think about that? Senate Minority Leader Brad Hutto is trying again to get a bill that he's proposed during every 2-year session since 2019. He's trying to get it past the finish line this year. The proposal didn't get a hearing during last year's legislative session. He's trying to change that. He said, I think that marriage is one of the biggest decisions anyone will ever make. It should be done by someone whose mind is fully developed. Teenagers don't magically wake up more mature on their 18th birthday than they were on their 17th, said Alex Goyeta with the Terrera Justice Center, who advocates for bills raising the minimum marriage age. But 18-year-olds have more opportunities than 17-year-olds. As someone who's considered an adult by law, an 18-year-old can hire a lawyer, can sign other legal documents on their own. Finding an apartment is easier, as is finding a full-time job. All good points. He said that's really important for someone who's trying to resist an unwanted marriage or to leave an abusive situation. Now, since Delaware became the first state to set the minimum age of 18, they did it back in 2018, 15 other states have followed suit. This according to the Washington, D.C.-based nonprofit center, which works to protect women from violence and help victims. 5 of those states did so just this past year. South Carolina is one of 20 states that allows people as young as 16 to get married. 6 states allow marriages as young as 15 or don't have an age limit at all. Now, the biggest challenge that these advocacy groups face is time, they say. Bills about the state's legal marrying age generally aren't among legislators' top priorities, making it more difficult to get a hearing scheduled amid the, you got the chaos of a part-time legislative session in a 2-year session. The issue is an important one, though, and with potential far-reaching impacts, he said. Girls married before turning 18 are more likely to face domestic abuse than their counterparts, according to studies by the Justice Center. Marrying young often separates girls from support networks that they might otherwise form through school, maybe their friends, their family, and making it more difficult for many to get help. Goyette says that underage brides are less likely to finish high school or to attend college, more likely to live in poverty, and more susceptible to long-term mental and physical health problems, again, according to the Justice Center. Goyette said this obviously has devastating lifelong harms. You know, I never had really even thought about how young you could be in South Carolina to get married. Had you? I mean, it's sort of a Southern joke that people get married younger down here. And look, you used to hear about stories of, my parents got married when they were like 17, and that was common during that period of time. But you have to ask yourself, you know, at what point is this something that government should be more involved in? According to the Justice Center, between 70% and 80% of marriages that include someone under the age of 18 end in divorce. And I don't doubt that, because you think about, you know, you're 16, you're 17 years old, you're not mature, you've got a lot of life left to live, and you just don't know, you just haven't been exposed to things, and you're sometimes forced into this relationship or pressured into it, and you're not mature enough to stand up for yourself. And then as you do get older, you realize you made a mistake. Mr. Goyette said these are not the foundational lifelong partnerships that we like to think of when we're talking about a marriage. As more states raise the legal age for marriage, Mr. Goyette warns that people could start traveling to South Carolina to take advantage of its pretty lax laws about marrying underage. Now, I never thought about that. It's kind of like, people go to Vegas to get married there. People could start coming, these young people, 16, 17-year-olds, could start coming to South Carolina just to get married. Some of South Carolina's neighboring states have already approved stricter laws. For example, Georgia, marriage is limited to those who are 18 and older. Tennessee, Tennessee has an age floor of 17. So does Florida. North Carolina also has a minimum age of marriage age of 16, but its law includes more safeguards, including allowing the other spouse to be no more than 4 years older and requiring a judge to evaluate whether the marriage serves the best interest of the person under 18. Now, I wonder how that process works. You're going to get married, and you have to plead your case to a judge that you know what you're getting into. Wow, South Carolina's laws, according to the Daily Gazette, where I saw this article first written about, does not include these safeguards, but could prevent some unwanted marriages if that age is raised. As long as a minor's parent signs off, any certified official can issue a 16-year-old a marriage license in the Palmetto State. Goyette said until every state moves on this issue, kids across the U.S. are in danger. Interesting. Is this something that you would call your legislator about? And I can see now how it would be hard to get something like this passed, because on the surface you think, well, what's it hurting? Sometimes people fall in love at 16, 17. Sometimes it's probably good for them to get married. And look, some of those marriages last. Again, I use my parents as an example. They got married when they were 17. And lasted until my father passed away a few years ago. So it's not like that they're always going to fail, but as the stats show us, they're more likely to fail than if you wait till you're a little bit older. I don't know. What do you think? Email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Text me. Again, leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-56 5639. That's it for today's show. Tara's up next, followed by the Mike Gallagher Show, Bill Frady, Charlie James this afternoon. Mark Levin wraps things up tonight. We're back again tomorrow at 5 a.m. for your first cup of coffee and more Sunrise, Carolina. Till then, folks, always remember, God's got this. He's still in control. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.